Commander Teo had been staring at the stars for almost 3 months now. The deep space mission had been peaceful and quiet, with nothing but the gentle hum of the ship's engines and the endless darkness of space all around. He stood on the bridge of the Huanggo, humanity's greatest spaceship, watching the monitors with tired eyes. The screens showed nothing but empty space and distant stars, which was exactly what he wanted to see. The Huanggo was not the biggest ship in human space, but it was strong and well-built. Its crew worked hard every day to keep it running smoothly. Teo trusted every person on this ship with his life. Lieutenant Hai Wan sat at the communications station, drinking her 4th cup of coffee. She had been looking at the same empty screens all day, and her job felt boring. Engineer Min Su was down in the engine room, making small repairs and humming old Earth songs to himself. Everything was normal and peaceful on the Huanggo. But then the sensors started making noise. Strange beeping sounds came from every direction at once. Teo's tired eyes snapped open. Something was happening out there in the empty space. The alarms on the bridge began to flash red, and suddenly the ship did not feel so peaceful anymore. Heywan jumped in her seat and started typing very fast on her keyboard. Her hands were shaking a little bit. "Commander, we have something on the sensors." Heywan's voice was loud and worried. "Multiple large objects appearing from... I don't know where they are coming from. They just appeared." Teo moved quickly to stand behind Heywan and looked at her screen. What he saw made his heart beat faster. On the sensor display, there were many, many red dots. Not just a few dots. Hundreds of dots. Each dot was a ship, and each ship was huge. The scale on the screen showed the truth that Teo did not want to believe. These ships were so big that the Huanggo looked like a tiny fly next to them. "How many?" Teo asked, but his voice sounded strange to his own ears. 237 vessels, Heywan said quietly. "Maybe more. They are still appearing from the wormhole. Sir, they are moving toward us." Captain Kyung-mi came running onto the bridge at that moment. She had been in her office doing paperwork, but the alarms had brought her to the command center. Kyung-mi was a strong leader who had faced difficult situations before. She had always found ways to survive when things looked bad. She looked at the screen and did not show any fear on her face, even though her mind was moving very fast. "Contact them," Kyung-mi said to Haiwan. "Try to make communication. Be nice and polite." Haiwan pressed many buttons and sent out a friendly message in every language that humans knew. She waited for an answer. The wait felt like forever, but it was only a few seconds. Then a voice came through the speakers. The voice was deep and cold and did not sound like any human language. It sounded like metal and ice mixed together. The computer tried to translate it. The translation came out slowly. "Humans, we are the Krell Dominion. You are not known to us. Your ships are weak. Your weapons are small and useless. You have 1 hour to surrender completely, or we will destroy you and take your ship for our collection. You have no choice. You cannot fight us. You cannot escape. Surrender now." The bridge became very quiet. 1 hour. They had 60 minutes to decide their fate. All eyes turned toward Captain Kyung-mi. She was the one who had to make the choice that would save them or end them. The Krell ships stayed in position, forming a circle around the Huanggo and the other human vessels that had been in the expedition with them. They were trapped like small fish in a large net. Kyung-mi walked slowly across the bridge. She was thinking hard about what to do. She was thinking about her crew. She was thinking about the families of her crew back home on Earth. She was thinking about what it meant to be human and what humans could do when they had no way to fight back with weapons. In her mind, an idea started to form. It was a strange idea. It was a crazy idea, but it might be their only chance. She looked at Teo. She looked at Haiwan. She looked at the other officers on the bridge. Then she began to smile. It was not a smile of fear. It was a smile of someone who understood something that the enemy did not understand. It was a smile that said she had an idea. "Call everyone," Kyung-mi said. "Call all the crew. Tell them to come to the bridge. Tell them we have something very important to do, and someone get me a camera, a good camera. We are going to make a movie." Teo felt confusion wash over him. A movie? They were about to be destroyed by an alien empire, and the captain wanted to make a movie? But he had learned to trust Kyung-mi's instincts. He started giving orders. Within minutes, the bridge was full of people. Engineers and doctors and scientists and soldiers all crowded into the room. They looked scared. They did not know what was happening. They did not know why the captain had called them all here. Kyung-mi stood in the middle of the bridge and told them what she wanted to do. As she explained her plan, something strange started to happen. The fear in their eyes began to change. At first, the crew thought she was crazy, but then they started to understand what she was trying to do. She was trying to show the Krell something they had never seen before. She was trying to show them what humans were really like. The camera operator, Sung Jin, got his best camera ready. The crew started to prepare. They had 45 minutes left now. The countdown was moving forward. The Krell waited in their huge ships, expecting the humans to start fighting or begging or running. But the Krell would not expect what was about to happen. They would not expect what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose, and only their humanity left to give. Captain Kyung-mi looked at her crew one more time. She saw fear in their eyes, but she also saw hope. She saw them looking at each other with new understanding. They were going to do something that no one in the galaxy had ever done before. They were going to face extinction with a weapon that no advanced military power had ever learned to defend against. They were going to face the Krell with laughter. The camera was ready. Sung Jin held it with both hands, pointing it at the bridge of the Hwanggo. Captain Kyung-mi stood in front of the camera with a smile on her face. Her eyes were bright and full of energy. Around her, the crew members were getting ready for what might be the last thing they ever did. The clock was moving. 30 minutes remained before the Krell would fire their weapons and destroy everything. "Are we broadcasting?" Kyung-mi asked Haewon. "Yes, Captain," Haewon replied. "We are sending this live to all the Krell ships, and we are also sending it back to Earth. Everyone will see this." Kyung-mi looked directly into the camera. She did not look scared. She looked like someone who was about to tell the best joke in the universe. She looked calm and happy, even though death was waiting outside in the darkness of space. "Hello, Krell Dominion," Kyung-mi said in a clear voice. "Thank you for giving us 1 hour. We are going to use this time very well. But first, let me introduce you to my crew. These are humans, and humans are special. Let me show you why." Engineer Min-soo walked into the camera view. He was covered from head to feet in grease and oil. His clothes were dirty and torn. He was holding a large wrench in one hand and a smaller tool in the other hand. He looked at the camera and smiled a big smile. "Hello, alien friends," Min-soo said very loudly. "I am Min-soo, the best engineer in all of human space. These ships you see here, they run on coffee. Yes, you heard me right. Coffee. Humans drink coffee, and then we work on ships. The more coffee we drink, the better the ships work. We have drunk so much coffee today that this ship could probably fly to the edge of the universe." Min-soo held up his wrench like it was the greatest weapon ever made. "And this is my weapon. If you attack us, I will hit your ships with this wrench. I am not worried." The crew members standing behind him started to laugh. Real laughter. Happy laughter. The laughter spread across the bridge like a wave. Soon everyone was laughing, even though they were terrified. Next, Medic Ara walked in front of the camera. She was holding a collection of items that looked very strange. There was a kitchen knife. There were forks and spoons. There were computer cables. All of these things were tied together with silver tape called duct tape. She held it up and pointed at it like it was a powerful weapon. "This is our secret weapon," Era said with a serious face. "We made it last night. It is very dangerous. This knife can cut things. These forks can stab things. These cables can... Well, I am not sure what they do, but they look very advanced. We duct-taped them all together, and now it is the most powerful weapon that humans have ever made." She pretended to throw it at the camera, and everyone on the bridge laughed again. The laughter was getting stronger. It was growing. The crew was starting to feel something changing inside them. The fear was still there, but it was becoming smaller. Something else was growing bigger. Hope was starting to fill the room. Dr. Quan Su came next. He was holding a clipboard with charts and papers. He stood in front of the camera like he was giving a very important scientific speech. He pointed at his charts and spoke in a serious scientific voice. "According to my research," Quan Su said, "there are many reasons why you should not attack us. First, humans taste bad. Very bad. My calculations show that we would taste like coffee and desperation. That is not a good flavor. Second, our music is very confusing. If you listen to human music, your navigation systems will stop working because they will be too busy dancing. Third, and most important, we are too funny. You cannot conquer a species that is always making jokes. Your weapons cannot stop laughter. Nothing can stop laughter." Quan Su turned his charts around and showed them to the camera. The charts were filled with funny drawings and silly numbers. But he was speaking with complete seriousness, like he was presenting the most important information in the galaxy. The laughter on the bridge was now very loud. People were holding their stomachs. People were wiping tears from their eyes. The fear was being pushed away by something stronger. The crew was not crying from sadness. They were crying from joy and laughter and relief. Then something amazing happened. Everyone on the bridge stood up at the same time. They gathered around Taio and Kyung-mi. They looked at each other. No one had planned what was about to happen, but they all understood. They all felt the same thing. They were human, and they were going to show the entire galaxy what that meant. They started to sing. It was an old human song. It was a song about standing together and not giving up. Their voices mixed together, creating something beautiful. The music filled the whole ship. It went out through the speakers to all the Krell vessels. The Krell, who had never heard humans sing before, received this music in their cold metal ships. After the song was finished, the crew started to dance. They moved their bodies in silly ways. Some of them moved like robots. Some of them jumped up and down. Some of them spun around in circles. They were all laughing and singing and having fun. They were all celebrating being human, being alive, and being together. Sung Jin kept the camera pointed at them. He captured every moment. He captured the dancing and the laughing and the joy. He captured something that the Krell had never seen before. He captured humans who were about to die, but who had chosen to spend their last moments celebrating life instead of running from death. The broadcast continued. People started to perform jokes. People told stories that made everyone laugh even harder. Min Su came back and pretended that his wrench was a great warrior. Era made her duct tape weapon do a silly dance. Quan Su gave more fake scientific reports about why humans were unbeatable, but underneath all of this silliness and laughter, there was something very real. There was courage. There was the courage to face death without fear. There was the courage to show your true self to an enemy who wanted to destroy you. There was the courage of humans who understood that they were special, not because of their weapons or their technology, but because of their ability to find joy and laughter even in the darkest moments. Hei Wan sent the broadcast to every corner of space. She sent it to Earth. She sent it to every human colony. She sent it to every ship in human space. And most important, she sent it to every Krell vessel. The entire Krell Dominion was watching. They were all watching humans who were laughing while facing death. In that moment, something changed in the universe. The Krell did not know it yet, but their empire had just met something they had no defense against. They had just met the human spirit. Inside the largest Krell warship, called the Destructor of Worlds, Supreme Commander Vexenth sat on his throne and stared at the monitor showing the human broadcast. His face was completely still. His eyes did not move. His hands did not move. He was frozen in a state of confusion so complete that his body had stopped responding to his brain. Vexenth was a very important being. He had conquered more worlds than any Krell commander in 3,000 years. His military victories were taught to young Krell soldiers in their war schools. His name was spoken with fear and respect across the galaxy. Alien species trembled when they heard he was coming. But at this very moment, Vexenth did not feel important or powerful. He felt something he had never felt before. He felt confused. Around him stood other Krell commanders. They were all tall and powerful with hard metal skin and cold eyes. They had conquered hundreds of planets together. They had defeated every enemy they had ever faced. They were the greatest military force in the known galaxy. But they were all staring at the monitor with expressions that matched Vexenth's: confusion, complete and total confusion. "What are we watching?" asked Commander Zelkoth, one of Vexenth's generals. "I do not know," Vexenth said quietly. "I do not have a name for what we are watching." On the monitor, the humans were still dancing. They were still laughing. Their ship was still moving toward the Krell fleet, not running away, not attacking, just moving. The humans seemed to have completely ignored the deadline. More than 50 minutes had already passed, but they had not surrendered. They had not even tried to escape. Instead, they had made this strange broadcast. A Krell scientist named Korvex stepped forward. He was the smartest Krell in the Dominion, the one who understood technology and weapons better than anyone else. He had studied this broadcast very carefully. "Supreme Commander," Korvex said, "I have run every possible analysis. This is not a weapon. I have checked for energy signatures, for hidden technology, for any kind of military advantage. There is nothing. They are simply playing." "Playing?" Vexenth asked. The word felt strange in his mouth. "Yes, Supreme Commander. They are engaging in activities that have no practical purpose. They are moving their bodies in ways that do not help them fight or survive. They are making sounds that seem to cause them physical reactions, but these reactions do not produce any kind of energy or power. It is purposeless. The entire broadcast is purposeless." Vexenth stood up from his throne and walked toward the monitor. He watched the human faces very carefully. What he saw shocked him. The humans were not afraid. They should be terrified. They should be begging for mercy. They should be offering everything they had in exchange for their lives. But instead, they were smiling. Their eyes were bright. Their movements were free and easy. They looked happy. "Perhaps it is a trick," suggested Zelkoth. "Perhaps they are using some kind of psychology to confuse us, so we will not fire." Vexenth shook his head. "If they wanted to confuse us, they would do something that makes sense. This does not make sense. Nothing about this makes sense." The broadcast ended. The monitor became dark. The humans had stopped broadcasting. Now Vexenth had to decide what to do. He had given them 1 hour, and the hour had almost passed. He had said he would destroy them if they did not surrender. The military code of the Krell was clear. He had to follow through with his threat. It was the only way to maintain power and respect. But something was making him pause. Something about what he had seen was wrong. Vexenth had conquered many species. He had seen them beg. He had seen them cry. He had seen them try to fight and try to run. He understood all of these reactions. They were normal. They were expected. But this was different. This was something his 3,000 years of military experience had not prepared him for. In the lower decks of the Krell ship, younger Krell soldiers were talking about the broadcast. They had seen it too. They had watched the humans dance and laugh and sing. Some of them were feeling something strange. They were feeling something that Krell soldiers were not supposed to feel. They were feeling curiosity. They were feeling doubt. If those humans can be happy while facing death, one young soldier said to his friend, then what is the point of our power? What is the point of our weapons? What is the point of conquering other worlds if we must always be afraid, always ready to fight, always serious? This kind of talk was dangerous in the Krell military, but it was spreading from soldier to soldier like a virus. The broadcast had planted a seed of doubt in the minds of the Krell. Meanwhile, across human space, every broadcast station was replaying the video. Every news channel was talking about it. People from Earth to the furthest human colonies had seen what their friends on the Huanggo had done, and they were not crying from sadness. They were crying from pride. In a small city on Earth, a young girl watched the broadcast on a screen. She watched Captain Kyung-mi and her crew laughing in the face of death. She watched them choosing joy instead of fear. She looked at her mother and asked, "Will they die?" Her mother did not answer for a long time. Then she said, "I do not know, my daughter, but I know that they lived. Even if they die, they lived more in that hour than most people live in their entire lives." Astronaut Park Jin was stationed on a remote research outpost far from Earth. He watched the broadcast alone in his small room. He watched the humans of the Huanggo refusing to give up their dignity, refusing to be conquered by fear. He felt something come alive inside him. He felt proud to be human. He felt like even if all of humanity died tomorrow, they would have done something that mattered. Back on the Destructor of Worlds, Vexenth was still staring at the dark monitor. The deadline had passed. According to his orders, he should fire now. His weapons officers were waiting for the command. The entire Krell fleet was waiting, but Vexenth did not give the command. He could not give the command. Something was stopping him. "Corvex," Vexenth said slowly, "tell me something. In all your scientific knowledge, have you ever seen a species like this? Have you ever seen beings who responded to death with laughter?" The scientist thought carefully before answering. "No, Supreme Commander. In all the species we have conquered, in all the civilizations we have studied, no one has ever done this. Humans are unique. They are very strange. They are very different." Vexenth nodded slowly. "Then we must learn about them before we destroy them. Issue new orders. The fleet will hold position. We will not fire, not yet. First, we must understand what we are facing." Around the Krell commander, gasps of surprise came from every side. This was not how the Krell Dominion worked. They conquered first and asked questions later. But Vexenth had made his decision. The humans had bought themselves time. Not with weapons, but with something far more powerful. They had bought time with mystery. They had confused the greatest military power in the galaxy simply by being themselves. 6 days had passed since the broadcast. The Krell fleet still surrounded the human ships, but they had not attacked. They had not fired any weapons. Instead, they were watching. They were listening. They were trying to understand something that they had never encountered before. Vexenth had ordered his scientists to study the humans, to learn about their culture, to understand what made them different from every other species in the galaxy. On the Huanggo, Captain Kyung-mi was receiving messages from across human space. The broadcast had made them famous. News reporter He-jin, broadcasting from Earth's main news station, had called it the most important moment in human history. She had said that what the crew of the Huanggo had done was not just about survival. It was about showing the entire galaxy what humanity was really made of. The messages were coming in from everywhere. Young soldiers from human colonies were sending videos saying they wanted to join the crew. Scientists were publishing papers about what had happened. Artists were making paintings and songs about the event. Teachers were showing the broadcast to their students and asking them what it meant to be human. Tayo was reading some of these messages on his personal computer when Kyung-mi walked into his office. She looked tired but happy. She sat down in the chair across from his desk and smiled. "Have you read these?" Teo asked, holding up a message from Earth. "I have read hundreds," Kyungmi said. "They are all the same. People are telling me that we did something special. But I did not do anything special. I just refused to accept that we had to die with fear. I just chose to laugh instead of cry." Kyungmi paused and looked out the window at the Krell ships. They were still there, still watching, still waiting. "Something is happening out there, Teo. Something we did not expect. The Krell are changing. I can feel it. The way they are looking at us is different. It is like they are trying to understand us instead of trying to destroy us." In the lower sections of the Krell flagship, things were indeed changing very quickly. Young Krell soldiers were watching the human broadcast over and over again. They were trying to understand the laughter. They were trying to understand the joy. Some of them were even trying to copy the human movements, trying to dance like the humans had danced. Their older commanders did not approve, but they could not stop the spreading interest in human culture. A Krell scholar named Ventara had been given the job of studying human history. She spent days and days reading everything that the Krell computers had collected about humans. The more she learned, the more fascinated she became. Humans had fought against impossible odds for thousands of years. Humans had failed many times, but they had always gotten back up. Humans had created art and music and stories that had no practical purpose, but that seemed to make their lives worth living. Ventara prepared a report for Vexenth. When she presented it to the Supreme Commander, her words were careful and respectful, but also surprising. "The humans," Ventara said, "have a quality that we do not have. They have discovered that life does not have to be only about power and conquest. They have discovered that joy and laughter and friendship are also sources of strength, perhaps more powerful than weapons." Vexenth listened to every word very carefully. When Ventara finished, he sat silently for a long time. Then he said something that shocked everyone in the room. "Order the fleet," Vexenth commanded. "Stop preparing weapons. Start preparing a message. I want to speak to the humans. I want to understand them. I want to know how they learned to be so different from us." This decision spread quickly through the entire Krell military. The soldiers began to talk about it. The commanders began to discuss it. For the first time in Krell history, the greatest military power in the galaxy had decided to listen instead of fight. It was a small decision, but it was changing everything. Word of the Krell's decision spread through human space very fast. People on Earth began to understand that maybe, just maybe, they would survive. The fear that had been heavy in people's hearts began to lift. It was replaced by hope. It was replaced by wonder. It was replaced by something new and different. In schools across human space, children were learning about what had happened. Teachers were asking their students, how did humans survive against a much stronger enemy? The answer was always the same. They did not survive by being stronger. They survived by being smarter. They survived by being braver. They survived by refusing to give up their humanity. Young people who had never dreamed of exploring space were now volunteering to join the space program. They wanted to be part of humanity's future in the stars. They wanted to help build a new kind of relationship with other species, a relationship based not on fear or conquest, but on understanding and respect. Hye Jin continued broadcasting news about what was happening. She interviewed people on the streets. She interviewed scientists and soldiers and regular people who had watched the broadcast. Everyone had the same feeling. They felt like something important was happening. They felt like humanity's place in the galaxy was changing. They felt like their future had become brighter. On the Huanggo, something unexpected was happening too. The Krell were sending messages to the human crew, not messages of threat or demand, but messages of question. They were asking about human culture. They were asking about human art. They were asking about music and dancing and jokes. They were asking why humans laughed. Minsu responded to a message about why he was proud of his work. He wrote a long explanation about how humans found meaning in creating things, in building things, in making things work. He wrote about how the work itself was rewarding, not just the result of the work. Ara wrote about healing. She explained that humans believed that every life was important, that every person deserved to be saved, that no one should be left to die. This belief was so strong that it drove humans to become doctors and nurses and healers. It was a belief that seemed to matter more than conquest or power. Kwanzaa wrote about science and discovery. He explained that humans were driven by the need to understand how things worked, how the universe was put together, how they could learn and grow. This curiosity was stronger in humans than the need for safety or comfort. Humans would risk danger and hardship just to learn something new. These messages were being read by the Krell. They were being studied and discussed. And something amazing was happening. The Krell were beginning to understand. They were beginning to see that there were other ways to live, other ways to be powerful, other ways to find meaning in existence. Vexenth sat in his command center and read message after message. He was learning about humans. He was understanding them. And he was realizing that he had made a very serious mistake. He had almost destroyed the most valuable discovery in Krell history. He had almost killed the beings who could teach the Krell that there was more to life than conquest. Kyung-mi stood on the bridge of the Hwang-go and received a message from Vexenth himself. The Supreme Commander wanted to meet. He wanted to sit down face to face with the captain and her crew. He wanted to understand. This was more than survival. This was the beginning of something completely new. This was the beginning of real change. The crew prepared themselves. They would not go to the meeting with weapons. They would go with their humanity. They would show the Krell that trust was possible. They would show them that there was another way to be. Captain Kyung-mi walked through the corridors of the Krell flagship. Around her were Teo, Hae-won, and several other officers. They had left their weapons on the human ship. They had come here with nothing but themselves. The Krell guards escorted them, but these guards did not look mean or angry anymore. They looked curious. Some of them were even smiling, which was something no one had ever seen a Krell do before. The corridor was long and made of a strange metal that seemed to glow with a cold blue light. The air was colder than on the human ship, and it had a smell that was different from anything they had ever smelled. Kyung-mi walked forward with confidence, but her heart was beating very fast. She was walking into the center of the greatest military power in the galaxy. If Vexenth wanted to harm them, there was nothing they could do to stop him. But Kyung-mi did not believe that was going to happen. She had understood something about the Krell. They were not evil. They were not cruel for the sake of cruelty. They were just different. They had built their civilization on military strength and conquest because they did not know any other way. But now they were learning. Now they were changing. Supreme Commander Vexenth was waiting in a large chamber. His throne was there, but he was not sitting on it. He was standing, waiting to meet them like an equal. When Kyung-mi entered, Vexenth moved toward her and extended his hand. It was a human gesture that he had learned from studying broadcasts. Kyung-mi took his hand and shook it. "Welcome," Vexenth said in a voice that was surprisingly gentle for such a powerful being. "I have been waiting for this moment. I have so many questions." They sat down at a large table. Hae-won was surprised to see that the Krell had provided food, and the food looked similar to human food. Vexenth had learned about human needs and had tried to make them comfortable. "Why?" Vexenth asked simply. "Why did you not surrender? Why did you not fight? Why did you dance and laugh and sing instead?" Kyung-mi thought about how to answer this question. It was the most important question in the universe, and she wanted to answer it correctly. Because, Kyungmi said slowly, I realized that if we surrendered, we would lose who we were. If we fought, we would lose who we were. The only way to stay ourselves was to be ourselves. We showed you who humans are. We showed you our truth. That truth is that we find joy and strength in love and in each other, not just in power and weapons. Vexenth listened to every word. His eyes never left Kyungmi's face. He was trying to understand something fundamental about existence. In 3,000 years of conquest, Vexenth said quietly, I have destroyed 217 civilizations. I have conquered hundreds of worlds. I have killed billions of beings. I did this because I thought it was what I had to do. I thought power was the only thing that mattered. But in watching your broadcast, I realized something. All those beings I conquered and killed, they wanted what your crew wanted. They wanted to laugh. They wanted to be with their families. They wanted to create things. They wanted to live as themselves, not as my slaves. Vexenth's voice was heavy with something that might have been sadness. The Krell Supreme Commander was experiencing emotions that no Krell was supposed to feel. He was feeling regret. Kyungmi reached across the table and put her hand on his arm. You cannot change the past, she said, but you can change the future. You can make different choices. You can learn from us. You can teach your people that there is more to life than conquest. Vexenth looked at her hand on his arm. The contact was strange for him, but it was not unwelcome. It felt warm. It felt like connection. It felt like hope. I want to make a proposal, Vexenth said. I want the Krell Dominion to change. I want to free all the worlds we have conquered. I want to end slavery and forced servitude. But this will be difficult. This will upset many of my commanders. It will cause conflict within the Krell. Will you help me? Kyungmi agreed without hesitation. Of course we will help you. This is what humans do. We help each other. We support each other. Over the next hours, Kyungmi and Vexenth talked about many things. They talked about human history and how humans had learned to build civilizations based on freedom and choice instead of force and fear. They talked about art and music and how creative expression was important to human happiness. They talked about family and friendship and community. Vexenth learned that humans created things just for beauty, not for any practical reason. Humans made art that had no purpose except to make other humans feel something. This concept was very strange to him at first, but the more Kyungmi explained it, the more he understood that this was actually a form of power. It was a power that connected beings to each other and to their own hearts. As night fell on the ship, Vexenth showed Kyungmi and her officers something special. He took them to a chamber where the Krell had begun to try making art. It was rough and clumsy, but it showed that they were trying. They were trying to create beauty. They were trying to learn what it meant to be more than just warriors and conquerors. Young Krell soldiers had made paintings. The paintings showed Krell and other species living together in peace. They showed stars and galaxies and beautiful things. Some of the paintings showed humans dancing and laughing. These young Krell had understood something that took many humans thousands of years to understand. They understood that all beings wanted the same things. They wanted to be safe. They wanted to be happy. They wanted to be free. Teo was moved by what he saw. Tears came to his eyes. He looked at Vexenth and said, "This is beautiful. This shows that change is possible. This shows that even the Krell can learn." Vexenth nodded. "Yes, we are learning. It is hard. It is frightening to change who you have been for thousands of years. But it is worth it. It is worth it because it is the right thing to do." Before leaving, Kyungmi and Vexenth made an official agreement. The Krell Dominion would begin to release all the worlds they had conquered. They would offer freedom and independence to all beings under their control. They would transition from a military empire to a true civilization based on culture, trade, and friendship. In return, humans would send teachers and ambassadors to help the Krell learn about art, music, science, and all the things that made life worth living beyond just survival. As the human delegation left the Krell ship, HFY sent a message back to Earth. She told the whole galaxy what had happened. She told them that the Krell Dominion was changing. She told them that peace was possible. She told them that the broadcast of humans laughing in the face of death had changed history. The news spread like lightning across human space. People began to cry with joy. They understood that their friends and family on the Huanggo had not just survived. They had changed the entire galaxy. They had shown that there was another way. They had shown that hope was real.